what we're going to be looking at here is property, plant, and equipment, and we're specifically going to be looking at machinery and equipment here and the cost of machinery and equipment. And again, it'll be for the acquisition here or the construction costs of machinery and equipment. And what is included is all the costs of getting the equipment to the location and condition ready for its intended use. That would be the costs of the equipment here when we're accounting for equipment here under our property, plant, and equipment here. So just looking at a basic example here, a cost required to get the equipment ready for its use. Say we have some purchased equipment here. That would be the purchase price or the cost paid for the equipment here. Any freight or handling to bring the equipment in, any taxes on the purchase here, insurance in transit, and say insurance on the equipment. That's the insurance prior to its being released to production. That's the insurance required to get it ready here, and any assembly and installation here. And if there was any cash discounts offered on the purchase price of this equipment here, it would we'd be reducing the equipment cost by the amount of the cash discount offered here. Now, if we're talking about self-constructed equipment, we'd have our material, our direct labor, and overhead here. It depends how you want to charge off your overhead. But in either case, if the equipment is either purchased or self-constructed, we would also include here costs ready to get this equipment here installed in the plant, like any special foundations, any testing and startup costs here, and break-in and startup costs. And those would be the labor and material required here to get the machine ready and going here, and all the testing costs or startup costs here, running maybe some trial runs here to make sure your equipment's ready to go here. So everything would be included. All the costs would be included up to the point here when this equipment is ready for full production and can produce here quality parts ready to be manufactured. And then one other point here on self-constructed assets, this fixed overhead, there's different options here. Either you could charge no fixed overhead here, or you could versus a portion of the overhead here, which we would be called full costing here. So let's just go up and look at our basic example here. Say we have a machine here that's purchased here, and we have a $200,000 here. What would be included here in the purchase? Again, it would be the purchase price here. The cost that we'd have here for the machine here would be like our purchase price. Any freight and handling cost here, again, I'm just going through what we did before here. Taxes on the purchase, insurance here in transit, insurance on the equipment here while it's being installed here, and any assembly and installation costs, and less any cash discounts here. And then just by comparison here, a machine that's self-constructed, this is where we'd come in with our direct cost here, our labor and material over here, and that would be a direct cost here. And then we have some variable overhead here, and we'd have some fixed overhead. So just totaling up all our materials, our direct labor, and overheads here, we come up with our build cost here. And I'm just throwing these out here. Our machine self-constructed, let's just say it cost us, our build cost here was $176,000 versus a machine here purchased. We had all our purchase costs here were $200,000. Now, in addition to either our purchase cost or our build cost here, we have these other costs here, because quite often we just associate the cost of a machine here with the purchase price. But there's more to it than just the purchase price. It's all the other costs necessary to get that machine up and running until it's ready for production and can produce quality material or quality product off the machine here. So just looking at our purchase machine here, of course we started out with our $200,000. That was all our purchase costs here included. Now we say, for example, we had to put a special foundation, which is most of the time you have to install some special foundation for your machinery here. So that would be included here. And then of course testing and startup costs here. That's the what would be required here for materials and labor and so forth for getting that machine ready for production. So our machine purchased, we start out with all these other purchase costs that we had here for our bringing it up to our purchased amount here, and then we add these other costs in here, and then we come up with the total amount here that would have to be capitalized and depreciated on our machine here. And so for our purchase machine with our purchase plus our foundation, testing, and startup, we come up with $215,000. Now, for looking at our machine here, self-constructed, of course, we just use our build cost, whatever that was here. In this case, it was $176,000. And then again, we have this foundation that we had to put in, and our testing and startup costs, just say they're the same as the purchase machine here. And total amount here, $191,000. Again, that would be capitalized and depreciated. Now, I'm not trying to make the comparison here between the purchase cost here and the self-constructed cost, because in either case here, you're going to have different startup costs most likely here, because the machine is going to have a little different characteristics and so forth. But these testing and startup costs will probably be different between these two different options here. And I'm just showing here for the self-constructed, this is where you get your direct costs here and your overheads that you'd have to include here in your cost here. Now, the other thing, just to make the compare, and the only point here is to make the point here that instead of just taking your purchase price here on the machine or your cost to build the machine here, you have to include all these other costs, and they can be very substantial here when it comes to all your testing and tryouts and your installation costs. Let's say, I'm just throwing it in as a foundation here, but there's all kinds of installation and startup costs here required in either case to get this machine ready for its intended use and ready for production.